is the man. He's the perfect guy to have on today, and that is Bobby Carpenter. All right, Bobby, you saw the news of Urban. What do you think?
Oh, goodness. I was just sitting here thinking what they needed to do to kind of quell this storm a little bit. They have an opportunity to have 2 winnable games. Like, all right, you win those 2, all of a sudden you win 4 games. And then it's a little bit different going from a 1-win team to a 4-win team in one season. You have the number 1 draft pick, Trevor Lawrence. Maybe he's improving a little bit. But, it wasn't overly surprising. The thing that's surprising is that it's his first year. He has 4 years left. But here's the thing, Dan, and you know this as well as anybody. When you become the story as the head coach, you better be winning games. And if you look at this going all the way back to the beginning of the year, Urban Meyer is a big personality. He's a big person in the sport. Everybody knows him. That's part of the reason they brought him in. He's a culture guy. He's very demanding. And he became the story going all the way back, to OTAs, hiring of Doyle, Tim Tebow coming in, obviously, not flying back after Cincinnati and the bar incident. And then now the leaks with the coaches. And Bill Parcells, I reference him all the time because he's like one of the godfathers of coaching to me. And Bill Belichick is the same way. Like, they really don't let their assistants speak to the media. And because when you start to get dissension in the ranks and your assistants are leaking things out, and now we're seeing stuff, Dan, it's not from the players. There was the Marvin Jones alleged incident, and both he and Marvin Jones talked about this and said they handled it like men, and that's what it was, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, there was a disagreement, obviously, but those things happen in regards to professional football and professional sports. You have disagreements, coaches, players get heated, you talk about it. And Marvin Jones, the pro, he said he handled it like a man. So did Urban, and they were good. But there was the stuff that was being leaked out about the staff, how he was hard on his staff and telling them to get their resumes ready. And he was calling them losers and all these things. That meant that there was someone on the staff, maybe multiple people, who were trying to leak this out, who, there was dissension in the ranks and trying to tarnish a little bit of what he was. Now, Urban's a hard guy to work for, very hard guy to play for, but harder guy to coach for. The staff, they're the ones that take a brunt of a lot of that. And so I can understand that. And when you run a system like Urban does, if you don't have complete alignment all the way, from someone who's serving the food to your offensive coordinator to your general manager, it does not matter. If you don't have that and you're not winning at a high level, you're going to start to see those cracks. You're going to start to see the chinks, the schism that's going to start to happen. I think we began to see that. And at that point, it was only a matter of time, because I don't think they were going to probably be able to win enough games. And ultimately, with the stuff coming out with the kicker and everything, I think that was probably just the final straw that Shad Khan said, hey, this is just too much about you, and we're not winning games. And so, you know what? It's probably time to move on.
I felt like the other day when the owner came out and didn't, said, hey, look, I'm going to take my time with this. I didn't think that was very good. I talked to Urban a few days ago, and he thought, hey, look, we better win 2 of these games, and that surprised me, because I felt like, well, you hired him to do a job that really hadn't been done very well there. Bobby, let me ask you this. A lot of people, what would be next? Like, I know Urban could go into TV. I assume I wouldn't do any of it if I was him, but would an AD hire Urban? What do you see that's next for him?
Well, I would say this, time cures a lot of things. The guy has won 3 national championships. But I talked a little bit, in Carp's Corner, I'm getting into that today, where I think, Dan, it may be more difficult now to coach in college athletics than professional sports. And let me tell you why. When, at least in the NFL, you have guys under contract. And so you have your guy for 2 years, for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be. And so you can coach them that way. And the only way they're leaving is if you trade them or release them. Now in college, if you try to grind on guys like that, hey, coach, see ya. I'm heading off to the portal. And I've got NIL money set up over there. And so you're going to have a hard time instituting that culture of toughness and accountability in college. And it's not to say that Urban can't do it, but I saw a little bit of strain, in the NFL of trying to deal with some of these issues. And now with college, I can't even imagine how he would be able to handle this. Could he get back into TV? Yeah, I think he'd give it a year off. He could. I think he could ultimately probably get back into college coaching. If you look at where the salaries are right now, what people are paying, coaches jumping and moving around, the fear of being irrelevant is massive in college athletics because you have to be near the top to be able to drive the TV dollars, to recruit, to bring boosters and all this stuff. Urban Meyer would give you that. Now, I'm not sure exactly how well he would do under the new paradigm that has existed now for the last 6 months in college athletics. But here's all you need to know. And Dan, you coached in college basketball for a long time. You've covered the sport for a long time. College football is the same. You look at Rick Pitino, he got a lot of jobs in college after, some issues professionally and obviously some personal things and all this stuff. I always use this guy as a reference because they coached together at Louisville. My brother was on his staff. You look at Bobby Petrino, how he left Louisville, what he did in the NFL, what he then did at Arkansas, how he ultimately left Arkansas, and then Louisville ultimately rehired him. And he got him to 10 wins and got him a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Like, if you can win in college football, college basketball, that's really all that matters. They'll take everything else that comes with it if you'll be able to give them that success. And so I think there would be someone out there who would ultimately do it if they were desperate enough. And that may happen, probably not for a year, maybe not for 2 years. But you also got to think, Dan, I mean, what's Urban, 57 years old? When he's 58, does he really want to be able to go back and be building this again? Like, I just can't see it. I don't know if financially it's necessary for him to do. I'm quite certain that it's not. And I just look at a guy right now who in the last year, Dan, it looks like he's been the president of the United States with how he has aged. And I don't know if he really wants to go through that again.
No, I'm with you on that. I noticed that yesterday. When I talked to him, you always want to feel relevant. You always want to feel like you're doing something. I told him, come on and co-host here. He likes Clay. He likes Outkick. Just come here and co-host. We'll have a good time. What the hell? Hey, let me go into recruiting just a minute here. Deion Sanders flips a recruit from his alma mater. What do you think about? Is this a trend? Is that like Doug Gottlieb's criticizing, saying, well, the kid is going to a lesser place with lesser teammates, bad decision? I don't feel that way, but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, we see guys do this in basketball occasionally. They go to a smaller school. I mean, it happens sometimes in football where there's 4 or 5-star guy who maybe wants to stay closer to home. I mean, he can criticize all he wants. I mean, there's a bunch of Hall of Famers that are FCS or 1AA players.
Yes.
Like you look at Jerry Rice and Walter Payton. You could argue that 2 of the greatest players went to Division 1AA or FCS schools now. So,
see, I would argue Walter Payton's the greatest player I ever saw, not named Bobby Carpenter, and he went to Jackson State, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they can come from anywhere. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine about how these guys in the NFL, how some of them can come from these smaller schools, and with recruiting, how can they be missed by the Georgias, the Bamas, the Ohio States? I mean, it just happens. And so you can get developed anywhere. It's not like he's not going to be developed. The position that he plays he was coached by arguably the greatest player at that position of all time in Deion Sanders, a defensive back. So he's going to get the coaching. You can get some NIL money. I'm sure there's some deals and all this stuff worked out. And you want to go play for Prime. Like, I give Deion a lot of credit for being able to get this done. By hook or by crook, this is something that nobody saw coming, and he did it to his alma mater. I wouldn't be surprised if Deion Sanders is the next head coach at Florida State, especially if Mike Norvell doesn't turn this thing around. And I don't know if it's a trend, but I could see this being something that happens more frequently now than ever before, which it never happened. And so if it happens a couple times a year, maybe once every other year, I think that's where we could be living. But I don't think you're going to see a case, Dan, where all of a sudden, 5 guys in the top 25 are now going to HBCUs or going to 1AA schools or FCS because, hey, they've got a coach and they've got some NIL money for me.
Bobby, let me go. COVID is hitting. We just had a basketball game. Penn State got canceled. We've seen NHL games. We've seen NBA games. The NFL is retooling its protocol. Do you think COVID, what do we do here? What do you think is going to happen? Let's keep it with college football and professional football. What are we going to see during the bowl season? What are we going to see during the NFL season moving forward in the playoffs?
Well, the NFL, that's why they're going back right now and readjusting their protocols. They were just testing guys once a week. And so it's like, okay, you don't want to find out. You get guys out there. The problem is, though, things can spread through the locker room when you don't do that. So that's why the players' union's a little bit I told you so. it wouldn't surprise me now to where this is something, Dan, and I think there was even an article in the New York Times, which I don't really read, or, there are a lot of these print media where people are finally realizing like this is going to be something that is going to be here. We're going to have to live with, spread rates are up, hospitalizations though, like severity of illness is down. We're talking about the youngest and healthiest population group that you're going to find in collegiate and professional athletics. These guys have trainers, they have nutritionists, they have monitoring, 24 hours a day. And so they're going to go back and retool this because the NFL does not want their product to be poor in the postseason and down the stretch. This is when people are starting to lock in, and they don't want to see a situation where the Browns are 5.5 point favorites and go to 1 point dogs in like a day and a half because they was 8. Now I think it's up to 14 players, head coaches out, Baker's out. Like they don't want to see these big shifts. It's bad for the sports books. They care about that. And it's going to produce a poor product when you have that many backups on the field. So they're going to go change it. I have a tendency to believe that college football will begin to do the same, that they'll look at this a little bit of the same way and say, hey, these guys, they're contracting this, they're getting, but are they really getting sick? And to this point, Dan, if you look over the last 2 years, it's not like when there's been a team that's played that's kind of had an outbreak, they haven't really spread it to another team. There's been none of these super spreader games where one guy went in with it and 25 or 30 guys on each team came out. Like that hasn't happened. And so I think they have enough data and everything that they're going to start trying to tweak this so they can continue to play. And I always say, follow the dollars. There's money in games being played. There's money in having the best players out there. And I think that we've gotten to the point now after a year where it's like, okay, we think this is fairly safe. We need to start getting back to normal. We'll just figure this thing out like the seasonal flu.
Yeah, I always said as a coach Knight used to say this, and I'm sure your coaches did, don't make definite rules. Don't say, hey, look, if you do this, then this is absolutely going to happen. Don't say we're canceling games. Don't try to look like a hard ass if you're not willing to back it up is kind of how I look at this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's I talked to my parents about this. When you start to have kids, it's the same thing, coaching. When you make things really black and white and you paint yourself into a corner and then all of a sudden you have no recourse to either A, you lose credibility and look like a liar, or B, you have to go through with something that you really don't want to or truly believe is the best decision to make. And so that's why I think the NFL has been very quiet on this. We're trying to retool protocols. We're trying to look at some things, and they're trying to figure this out, get more data. And truly, Dan, like this, that's the mark of any intelligent person. Like I can believe something today, and if new information arises, and this is what drove me crazy about the Big Ten last year, like, hey, I understand you want to be safe. We don't know a lot about things. Let's proceed cautiously. And then as more information comes out, then we take that new information into account. We add it into whatever our formula is we're constructing, and then we make a new decision based upon that. And so if you're going to say, hey, it's going to be this, and this is the only way it's going to be, you're eliminating the possibility of any new information that could arise that will ultimately change your decision. And I think that's the thing, that great coaches, really intelligent people, great leaders don't ever do, is paint themselves into a corner where they have no recourse other than to make the one decision that they said that was going to happen.
Coach Knight used to say, I listen to my players on all the things I don't care about. Yeah.
It's great.
Where you guys want to eat tonight? I don't give a damn. Hey, Bobby, this NIL stuff, let me go back to it real quick. Is this real money? I mean, is this, I saw the Ewers kid came in, got $1 million. A lot of people are complaining when they transfer, they got to give money back. What do you see here?
So the devil's always in the details. I want to see what these contracts look like. And none of the marketing guys who are involved, like they really don't want to reveal what this is looking like. And I've talked to some other members of the media and, as these guys move and they get these big 7-figure deals, well, what does it look like? Is it, how much are they getting per year? Are there play incentives attached to it? Are there incentives where they have to be at a certain school? What are the stipulations? What are the details in the contract? And that is something that we really don't know yet. And especially on some of these big deals, because let's be honest, Dan, the people that are signing these guys up, I mean, everybody's made mistakes in life. And maybe they made a couple mistakes, but they're not naive enough. They weren't foolish enough to just say, hey, here's $1 million. whether you play or not, you're getting all of it. Whether you transfer to 4 schools or stay at the one that we signed you with, you're getting it all. Like, I cannot foresee an intelligent business person doing that. And if they did, then you know what? They're going to eat this. But as they see all these guys beginning to transfer, I guarantee you there's going to be clauses in these deals. And this is starting to look very professional now, but this is the world that we're going to live in. There will be clauses in these deals that will encourage, playtime incentive, award incentive, school incentive, all those things to help protect the person who's paying out all this money.
I agree. I agree. Let's go to some quick hot takes. Urban Meyer, I say never coaches again.
I don't think he does either. I mean, you talk about him being 57, 58 years old. I think he could get back in the college game, but does he want to get back in the college game based upon how it looks now and then sitting a year out at that age? I just don't think there'll be a great situation that he would want to entertain should anything arise. He's pretty happy doing TV, and I could see him sitting out a year. And Dan, and getting back to what you and I do, doing things where you never lose a game. When you're on the call, when you talk to a camera, there's no wins and losses. You don't maybe get that great high, but you also don't have to sulk in defeat as well.
Hey, the losses almost killed me. People can talk about Michael Jordan being – my dad always said, you're so stupid competitive that if you ever lose, it's going to kill you. I did, and it almost did. The Chargers are going to get their ass kicked by the Chiefs tonight.
I believe Chris Jones is in the COVID protocol, and if he doesn't play, that'll give the Chargers a fighting chance. If you look at the Chiefs and how well they've played, it's been in direct correlation with the reemergence of Chris Jones. Now, Spags has that defense playing better, and the offense is beginning to come around. No Chris Jones will give him a fighting chance. I ultimately took the Chiefs to win this game. I think they do. But if Chris Jones isn't able to play, that's going to be a huge advantage for the Chargers because I think he honestly is the most important defensive player to his team right now in the NFL.
Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, and I were friends at Bowling Green. He brought my somewhat inebriated wife home, he and his girlfriend, one night when I left the party early to go watch film. I digress. There will be a game canceled in the NFL due to COVID.
I don't see that happening. I don't think there were any games canceled last year. There may have been some postponements, maybe 1 or 2. The NFL added a game this year, Dan. They were trying to make more money. They're not in the business of canceling games. They're going to get that product on the field, and they're going to change the protocols if they need to do that to get it done. They are going to play every single game this season.
I actually, that was a bullshit hot take I gave you because I agree with you totally. My boys, the Colts, for the first time in forever, are actually favorites against the Patriots. 2 things. This is the game of the weekend, and the Colts are better than the Patriots.
I think the Colts might be more talented than the Patriots. I think this is the game of the weekend. If Jonathan Taylor can run the ball effectively, the Colts win. But I will need to see that early on to be able to have success because Bill Belichick, we've seen it. The one thing he does is take away what you do best. And if he can stop the running game and push that game back onto Carson Wentz, Carson's playing well this year, but I would not like to see that against the Patriots secondary and a defense that's playing well. The Colts have to continually be able to run the football. Bill's going to do everything he can to stop that. And if they can succeed, they win. At this point right now, I'm favoring the Patriots a little bit, but early in the game, you'll be able to tell if the Colts should be able to win it.
Yeah, I think everybody here in Indy, swear to God, Bobby, we're all saying that exact same thing. Please, God, don't make the offensive guard, Quentin Nelson, tell the head coach to run Jonathan Taylor without an RPO. Please, please.
Absolutely, man. Listen, they know it. Players understand it. They know the pathway to victory, and they're going to sit there. And this is the thing with Bill Belichick, Dan. If it takes him putting 8, 9 guys, he'll do everything he can. And then he'll say, go beat us some other way. And so you know what? You've got to stay consistent with it. You have to throw some change-ups, but you just can't get scared and get away from it. You have a talented running back. Jonathan Taylor's on my fantasy team. I've drafted him the last 2 years. I think he's a great player. I love the guy. Loved him at Wisconsin. They've got a really great O-line. Quentin Nelson, get behind him, saddle up. It doesn't have to be a pretty win. Who cares what it looks like? The game could be 16 to 13. There is no NFL playoff selection committee. Just win the darn thing, and then you'll be in a good spot.
And no idiotic fake punts like 6 years ago. None. Nothing stupid like that, Bobby.
Hey,
None.
Bill will let you beat yourself. He will give you everything. Hey, you know what? Go ahead. He'll make it so enticing, Dan, for you to try to get real smart and think you can outsmart him. But his teams are so well coached, they will not let down in situational football. So you have to stay disciplined if you want to beat him.
You're the best. What you got on the show today? What's going on?
Oh, goodness. I don't know if you saw this. Fox put out a list of their 25 most valuable college football programs. We'll dive into that. Ryan Day, some overtures about the NFL. Could he potentially be leaving there, and is that ever going to stop? And like I said, is it easier now to potentially coach in the NFL or professional sports versus college, Dan, with this crazy transfer rule?
You're the best, my friend. Thanks for coming on, Bobby. If I don't talk to you, have a great Christmas. Thank you so much.
Oh, I plan on it, Dan. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas.